everybody for joining me today. I know that you have very busy schedules, and it's not a small thing to take time for a broadcast like this, so thank you. I also hope you're having a good Friday. We are very excited to be doing the first of what will be a series of webcasts to help answer questions that you have, but to also disseminate information that will be very important to you as we continue to make the changes to DFCS that will make us a great agency, one that is outstanding in the field of protecting children and serving families. I want to start off, first of all, by talking a little bit about why I do this work and let you know what my connections to the work are. Some of you have heard me talk about my personal story. At birth, I was given up by my birth mother for adoption. I spent the first 10 months of my life in the orphanage system in North Carolina. But I was very lucky. I oftentimes say that at birth I was more likely to be unemployed, undereducated, and in jail than be sitting here today talking to you. But I was so lucky because I had a social worker who cared enough to find a family for me that would just be outstanding in every way, but especially by loving and supporting me through all the challenges that every child has as they're growing up. As I began my career, I started as a Child Protective Services social worker in a very small county in North Carolina, so small in fact that CPS was not my only duty. I did everything from the intakes for CPS calls to the investigations, to ongoing services, to working with families in foster care and getting children permanency, and completing adoptions. After that, I went on to serve in a couple of different roles within county departments as the director of the Department of Social Services where my adoption was finalized, and then in the largest county in North Carolina as a deputy director for Family and Children's Services at the Mecklenburg County Department of Social Services. I then came to Georgia and started my career here with the Division of Family and Children's Services as a project director in the deputy director's office. Shortly thereafter, I became the family services director, and for a good period of time, I was in charge of child welfare policy, also domestic violence, what we used to call the treatment services unit, and also for contracts such as promoting safe and stable families. So I gained a whole lot of knowledge. Then I was asked to become the department's liaison to the legislature and spent a couple of years working at the legislature, working with policymakers across the state, try to assure that we had the laws in place that we need to do our jobs. In doing all those things, I learned a whole lot and was very fortunate in 2011 when Governor Deal called and invited me to become a part of his administration as the commissioner at the Department of Early Care and Learning. I spent 3.5 years there. I learned a whole lot, really learned primarily about the way you run a department and also about the importance of brain development and how the kind of experiences that children in child welfare have, how that affects their brain development and how we can make that better as professionals. In June of this year, Governor Deal again called on me and asked me if I would come over and be the interim director of the division. And as many of you know, we've had some very difficult times. When he asked, I had a very quick answer because I really felt like I was being asked to come back home. This kind of work is really where my heart is, and I wanted to be here even though we were experiencing some difficulties, because I knew that I had something to offer and I wanted to help you help the families and children of this state. Governor Deal asked me for one simple thing: to make sure that children are safe in the state of Georgia, and in doing so, that they have the best shot at life that we can give them as a state. As we began this work, we were working with the Child Welfare Reform Council that was also appointed by Governor Deal prior to my taking this position. They asked me what my vision was, and I said, I think that we could really shoot to be an adequate agency, but if we're going to do the things that are best for families and children, we need to strive to be the best child welfare agency, not just in the U.S., but in the world. And that is really what I'm trying to do. That is the goal that I keep in mind as I go about my work every day. I think you have the capabilities. We have to give you the resources. Changes of the magnitude that we're talking about here really take time. They require a whole lot of consultation. And when I say consultation, I'm not just talking about professional consultants. I'm talking about the people that know how to do the work, that know what families and children are facing in the state, and who are the professionals and the experts in their own right in how you do child protective services, how you do foster care, how you do adoptions, and how you deliver economic services in such a way that families and children have the best shot that they can have. We began to look at all of the issues that are facing the agency. And I think what I've discovered is that the things that we face in this agency are the things that most agencies that do child welfare work face. We really have a couple of things that I think we need to focus on in the short term. And we have asked you what your thoughts on that were. The two things that rose to the top were a focus on hiring and on technology. First, let me talk to you a little bit about what we've done in the realm of hiring. Governor Deal, prior to my coming aboard, actually prior to the last legislative session, based upon the number of cases that we were handling at the time, committed to providing 575 caseworkers to the division by the state fiscal year 2017. As a part of that, the first installment was to give us 175 caseworkers. As I came aboard, I learned that we had done the recruitment and the hiring for most of those positions. And as I began to look at the number of cases that we were handling, I quickly realized that we needed more help than that, and we needed it immediately. One of the really nice things that I've had is the opportunity to work directly with the governor's office and be able to share with them in real time the needs that the division has. I went immediately and asked for additional caseworkers, and frankly, in the 25 years that I've been doing this kind of work, I've never seen a appropriation made in the middle of a budget cycle. And this one came in the form of 103 additional caseworkers that the governor committed to, that were agreed upon also by the leaders in the House and the Senate, because they also recognized that we have a very difficult job and we needed the people to be able to do that job adequately. We also know that we need to focus on retention. Some of the numbers that I've looked at this week from our Office of Human Resources Development and Management tell me that unfortunately, we have as many staff leaving in some counties as we're bringing on. And so that tells me that we have a lot of other things that we need to work on. In addition to the hiring, we have to get the retention of staff where it needs to be. We also know that there is a need for higher pay. That's the second thing that you told us. And we would agree with you. I think you will find it reassuring that not only do we agree with you, but the national consultant, Ginger Pryor, who has been working with me to do an assessment of the agency, also agrees with us. That was one of her recommendations to the Child Welfare Reform Council. And yesterday, the Child Welfare Reform Council came out with their recommendations. And they also made recommendations that the pay be higher, and they made some recommendations as to how we get there. They want us to develop a career ladder, and they also want us to pay for higher levels of qualification. So We will be working on that. We will be seeking your counsel on how to make that work. That will take place over the next year, and we look forward to working with you on that. Again, technology rose to the top as we asked you what you needed. Technology takes many forms. I know that for a long time, our caseworkers had nothing more than flip phones to do their work. And I know that many of you have used your personal phones when you had smartphones to be able to increase your capability to do the work, simply by trying to find location of residences through some of the applications that were available. Thankfully, we should have rolled out by now all of the smartphone technology, Windows phones, the latest kind of technology we could find that should be in the hands of caseworkers in the field at this point in time. That gives you some great capabilities. It gives you a better capability to access your email account. It gives you a better capability to take photos of high quality when you need to do that while performing your duties. It also has GPS capability, and that's going to be very important for worker safety. We want to make sure that as you do your jobs, which we know often takes place in very dangerous communities, that you have the resources to keep you safe. One of the ways that we can do that is to have a GPS locator that can tell us exactly where you are. We're also exploring the possibility of a panic button that can be pressed to alert local authorities as well as your supervision and your managers to the fact that you may need assistance where you are at that point in time, and to help us locate you and get there as quickly as possible. We will continue to work on that. We also know that we have other outdated technologies. We need to be moving in the direction of lightweight tablets for caseworkers to be able to use in the field. We need to be modernizing our SHINE system to assure that we are able to do things one time and one time only. There is no need for us to have to continually enter data that has been entered into SHINES one time. If it's in SHINES, it needs to be replicated anywhere else in the system that we need it. We also need SHINES to be able to provide notifications. For instance, notifications to our reporters about, number one, the fact that we received their report and whether we decided to accept it or not. And then secondly, we need to be able to report back to them and let them know whether the case was substantiated or unsubstantiated. And those are allowed by law. I want to be clear on that. But we don't need you to have to, as a caseworker, follow up and write those letters every time or make those phone calls. Those things need to be automatically generated out of our child welfare information systems. And SHINES can do that. We just have to make the appropriate changes. The other real challenge that I've been very keenly aware of since I have been here is that SHINES is not always available. For a period of time when I first arrived in the end of June and early July, there were times when SHINES was down for the better part of a week. That is simply unacceptable. This is a system that we've spent tens of millions of dollars on over the years. And we are trying now to hold accountable everybody in the process. We hold ourselves accountable for getting the resources that are needed. We're also holding accountable the vendors that build the systems and maintain them. They have reacted very well to that. I can tell you, however, if we get the sense that they're not reacting in the way that they need to, we will terminate the contract, we will locate another vendor, or we will bring that work in-house so that we can assure that it gets done and gets done timely, because we know it's essential. SHINES is not an option. This is an essential tool for you, and it needs to work for you at all times so that we can get the information in and you can be out doing your job primarily, which should consist of being with the cases, talking to the children, talking to the families, making the collateral contacts. SHINE should never be the end in itself. It should be a tool to get us there. We also know that there are many long-term needs. We've chosen to focus on a few at the beginning because we know that when we focus, we can do things more quickly. When you focus on more, then you slow it down. And sometimes you really challenge it to the point that you can't accomplish any of it. So we're looking both in short-term and long-term fashion. I want you to know that I continue to meet with the governor's office on a regular basis. Up to this point, we have met on a weekly basis. During those meetings, I've told them exactly what my assessment of the situation is, and primarily have spent time talking about what you need to do your jobs. That has been well received by the governor and the governor's staff, and those meetings will continue. I've also met on a weekly or a monthly basis with the Child Welfare Reform Council. That is a group of very high-powered stakeholders that have become advocates for you and for the work that we do. They delivered their recommendations yesterday and voted on those, and I know that the one of the organizations that represents child welfare workers around the state has sent out the preliminary information about that. We'll be getting you more on that as soon as the report is ready, but I can tell you there are great things in there about the technology need, about the kind of retention issues that we're having, what we should do about that, and how we should pay you, and pay you better, pay you well, so you can stay with the job that you love. We are also working on what we're calling a blueprint for change. The blueprint for change will simply be a set of guidelines that we will follow in trying to make the large changes that are needed in this department. You should know that I don't see this as being a short-term approach. This really is going to require a number of years. And that's right, I said a number of years to complete. And I intend to be here as long as it takes to complete these. The three things that are a part of the blueprint for change are, number one, a practice model. We, in policy, subscribe to family-centered practice as the practice model for the state of Georgia. But when we talk to staff around the state, what we learn is that many people don't understand what family-centered practice means. Some have been trained, some have not. And also, we have people that really don't understand that family-centered practice is a part of what we do at all. Some think that safety response system is our practice model. So we're going to be doing some work with you to select a new practice model, to reaffirm the principles by which we will do the work, and also take a very close look at the way we evaluate safety for children and the way that we're doing work with families. The second component of the blueprint for change is what I call a robust workforce development plan. Now, that encompasses a whole lot. The workforce development plan has to really deal with things like recruitment and retention of staff, certainly. And a part of that is the pay that you said is very important to you. We agree with you. I agree with you that the salaries are too low, and we will be working on that as we move toward the legislative session. We also know that we continue to need more staff. You should know that the Department of Human Services board recommended recently in our budget that another 278 caseworkers be given to the division as a part of the next budget. So hopefully that will put us even closer to where we need to be with regard to caseload sizes. The governor has stated a goal that he wants each caseworker to handle on average no more than 15 cases. Also, on the supervisory end, he stated that he wants no more than 5 workers per supervisor. Those are goals that we can meet and intend to meet by state fiscal year 2017. We also know that there's a huge training component. All of the things that we're talking about really require us to train in a different way. Many of you have heard me say that as I started my career, I benefited from the fact that I had a 40-year social worker who went on home visits with me until I was there for about 6 months. I never did a home visit alone for 6 months. And during each home visit, she was taking notes. Sometimes she would give me guidance in the visits with the family. Sometimes she would save that until after we left there and say, you need to do this the next time. Did you notice that the family reacted in this way? And that helped me really hone my practice so that on the 7th month, I was able to go out with more confidence. She remained there, however, to supervise me, to provide me with good guidance from that point forward. And that really does shape how you do the work as a caseworker. It also is a great reassurance that as you do the work, you're doing the right thing. And I know that many of you are new caseworkers, and that is something that concerned me greatly. Am I doing the right things for children and family? Am I identifying those things that make children unsafe? And so we're going to be moving to a different training model, which includes a set of mentors for both frontline staff and for supervisory staff, so that we can give you the best opportunity that we possibly can to be the best caseworker, to be the best supervisor, to be the best future manager and director in this agency. In closing, I want to say to you that I want to continue to know your thoughts. It is not a good thing if I sit in Atlanta at my desk and formulate all the plans that are needed to move us forward as an agency. That is not a good thing. It's not a good thing if I sit here and do that with my senior leadership team, or even in consultation with the regional directors. It really requires that we have conversation with everyone at every level of DFCS to make sure that we understand where you think we ought to go, what you think we need to give you for you to be able to do your jobs. And if we can do that, we can create a plan that will take us so far in the future and also make children safe and give families the things that they need in order to keep DFCS from ever being a part of their lives. We will share a more detailed, concrete plan beginning in early 2015. I want you to know, however, that as we go through this, I see the Blueprint for Change as being a living document. Things change. We encounter different things as we do this work. I'm not going to say we'll get it right every time, but if you will give us the kind of feedback I'm requesting, we will get it right as we go forward. This has been a difficult few years for you. I have watched as I was a part of another department, and my heart really went out to all those who were having difficulties in cases. Oftentimes the media hones in on caseworkers as the problem, when in fact the caseworker is there as a first responder to help that family, to make sure that that child is safe. Can we prevent every child tragedy? I don't think we can, unfortunately. But we can go out every single day and do the very best job we can. We can equip you with the very best skills and training and mentorship to help you be the best employees you can be, so that we can have the best child welfare system in the world. The seeds for positive change have already been sown. The seeds for change are inside of you. The kind of commitment that you come to this work with is really what it takes in order for us to be the best child welfare agency in the world. And I'm confident that we're going to get there. During the season of Thanksgiving, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, I want to tell you what I'm thankful for and what every Georgian ought to be thankful for. And that is for you, because you do very difficult work every day. You do work that helps children keep from being abused, that addresses it when they are being abused and helps them get to safety, that also finds permanent families when their own family can't provide the love and care that they need. So as you do that work, know that I'm very, very appreciative of that. So is Governor Deal, so is First Lady Sandra Deal. I know that they've both made visits to your offices, and they will continue to do that as well as I will. So I encourage you to enjoy the time during Thanksgiving holidays with your family, and to really enjoy that time. Refresh yourself and come back to work with a renewed commitment to help children and families, and to work with me and your leadership toward having the very best child welfare agency that we can possibly have. Again, I encourage you to continue to provide me feedback through emails, and if you need me, as always, call me. If you see something wrong, tell somebody. If you see a child that's in danger and no one will listen, call my BlackBerry number. I want to know about it, and I will help you get what's needed. Thank you very much. I look forward to continuing to work with you as your leader, and hope you have a wonderful day and wonderful holidays coming up.